Alright guys, Marvel fans, before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, took the world by storm, Marvel had already made several attempts to bring its beloved comic book characters to the big screen. While the MCU is now a well-oiled machine of interconnected films, the road leading to it was far more chaotic. Some non-MCU Marvel movies are fan favorites, while others, well, we try to forget they ever existed. In this article, we'll rank and analyze all the non-MCU Marvel movies, considering their cultural impact, box office success, and their role in paving the way for the MCU juggernaut. Grab your vibranium shield for a healing factor as we dive in. 10. Fantastic Four, 2015, the one we'd rather forget. Often referred to as Fant4stick, in a snarky nod to its logo design, this 2015 reboot had high hopes, but it ultimately became one of the most disastrous comic book movies of all time. Directed by Josh Trank, the film suffered from poor pacing, a confusing plot, and troubled production behind the scenes. The film attempted to take a more serious and darker tone than previous Fantastic Four iterations, but it fell flat. Audiences were left scratching their heads, wondering how a superhero movie with such an iconic team could go so wrong. Even the actors, including Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, seemed disinterested in their roles. The movie bombed at the box office and put the Fantastic Four franchise on ice once again. Quote, as Josh Trank tweeted, then deleted, right before the movie's release, "A year ago I had a fantastic version of this. And it would have received great reviews. You'll probably never see it." That's reality though. 9. X-Men, The Last Stand, 2006, a franchise misstep. X-Men, The Last Stand was the third installment in the original X-Men trilogy and the first film without Bryan Singer at the helm. Directed by Brett Ratner, the film attempted to adapt the iconic Dark Phoenix saga, but it was a jumbled mess of too many characters and half-baked plot lines. While the action sequences were impressive for the time, the story lacked the emotional depth and character development that made the previous X-Men films special. Killing off major characters with little payoff felt like a cheap attempt to add stakes. However, despite its flaws, The Last Stand did manage to bring in huge box office numbers, proving that even a subpar X-Men movie could draw crowds. Quote, as Ian McKellen, Magneto, reflected on the film years later, "I think the film lost its way. There were too many characters, too many stories to tell in one movie." 8. Daredevil, 2003, Ben Affleck's misfire. In the early 2000s, superhero movies were still finding their footing, and Daredevil was Marvel's attempt to tap into a grittier side of its universe. Ben Affleck starred as the blind vigilante, Matt Murdock, in this film directed by Mark Steven Johnson. While the film had some strong performances, Michael Clarke Duncan as Kingpin and Colin Farrell as Bullseye, the story was uneven, and the visual effects haven't aged well. Affleck himself has publicly criticized the film, and many fans agree that it didn't do the character justice. However, Daredevil has its defenders, particularly for its director's cut, which added 30 minutes of footage and improved the film's overall pacing and tone. For better or worse, this was the Daredevil the world got before Charlie Cox's much-beloved TV iteration. Quote, Affleck once admitted, "I never loved Daredevil. It just killed me. I wore a costume I didn't like and did a movie I wasn't proud of." 7. Ghost Rider, 2007, Nicolas Cage's fiery ride. Nicolas Cage as Johnny Blaze, the motorcycle-riding stuntman who makes a pact with the devil. Sounds like a match made in campy heaven, and that's exactly what Ghost Rider delivers. The movie is far from perfect, but Cage's wild performance brings a certain charm to the role. Directed by Mark Steven Johnson, who also directed Daredevil, Ghost Rider is a visual spectacle, but it often feels hollow and overly reliant on CGI. The sequel, Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, did little to redeem the franchise, as it leaned too heavily into absurdity. Still, Cage's passion for the role and the uniqueness of the character make this film stand out, even if it's more of a guilty pleasure than a great superhero flick. 6. X-Men Origins Wolverine 2009. A step back for Wolverine. X-Men Origins Wolverine was supposed to give us the definitive backstory of one of Marvel's most beloved characters. Instead, it left fans feeling underwhelmed and confused. Directed by Gavin Hood, this film is notorious for its mishandling of Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds, and for its weak special effects. Remember that CGI adamantium claw scene? While Hugh Jackman is still charismatic as Wolverine, the movie's story and execution felt rushed and underdeveloped. The decision to sew Deadpool's mouth shut remains one of the most baffling choices in superhero movie history. Thankfully, Reynolds would later get a chance at redemption with Deadpool in 2016. Quote, Reynolds has humorously referenced the movie in interviews, stating, "I didn't sew my mouth shut, they did." 5. Blade 2, 2002, a bloody good sequel. The original Blade, 1998, starring Wesley Snipes as the vampire hunter, was a surprising hit and is often credited with helping kickstart the modern superhero movie trend. However, it's the sequel, Blade 2, directed by Guillermo del Toro, that truly elevated the franchise. Del Toro's signature gothic style, combined with Snipes' charismatic performance and some intense action sequences, made Blade 2 a standout. The film expanded on the vampire lore established in the first movie and introduced new, terrifying creatures. It's a dark, gory, and stylish comic book adaptation that still holds up today. 4. The Amazing Spider-Man, 2012, Andrew Garfield's underrated Spider-Man. Following Tobey Maguire's reign as Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield took on the role in the Amazing Spider-Man reboot, directed by Mark Webb. While some fans were initially skeptical, Garfield brought a different, more modern take on Peter Parker. His chemistry with Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy, was one of the film's strongest points. However, The Amazing Spider-Man was not without its problems. The villain, Lizard, felt underwhelming compared to the likes of Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus. Additionally, some fans felt the reboot came too soon after the original Sam Raimi trilogy. Despite this, Garfield's portrayal remains beloved by many, especially after his triumphant return in Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. Quote, in a 2021 interview, Garfield shared, "I love playing Peter Parker. To me, Spider-Man is a symbol of goodness." 3. X-Men, 2000, the beginning of the modern superhero movie boom. When X-Men debuted in 2000, superhero movies were far from the mainstream blockbusters they are today. Bryan Singer's X-Men helped change that by proving that comic book movies could be both intelligent and commercially successful. With a star-studded cast, including Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Patrick Stewart as Professor X, and Ian McKellen as Magneto, X-Men balanced character development with thrilling action. It set the stage for future X-Men films and, arguably, the MCU itself. Though the special effects may look dated now, X-Men still holds up as a milestone in superhero cinema. 2. Spider-Man 2, 2004, a near-perfect superhero film. Considered by many as one of the best superhero movies of all time, Spider-Man 2 took everything that was great about the first Spider-Man, 2002, film and improved upon it. Directed by Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 2 follows Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker as he struggles with balancing his personal life and responsibilities as Spider-Man. The film introduces one of the most memorable villains in comic book movie history, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, whose tragic story arc made him a nuanced and sympathetic antagonist. Spider-Man 2 expertly blends action, drama, and humor, all while giving Peter Parker one of his most challenging personal and superhero conflicts. Raimi's unique style, complete with intense fight scenes and emotional depth, makes Spider-Man 2 not just a great superhero movie, but a great movie, period. The iconic train fight scene, which remains one of the most thrilling action sequences in the genre, still stands as a testament to the film's greatness. Quote, Raimi himself has reflected on Spider-Man 2 with pride, noting, I think that film was a perfect storm of storytelling, character development, and emotional stakes. 1. X-Men, Days of Future Past, 2014, the pinnacle of non-MCU Marvel. At the top of our list is X-Men, Days of Future Past, which skillfully combined the best elements of the original X-Men trilogy and the newer X-Men, first-class cast. Directed by Bryan Singer, this film adapted one of the most beloved comic book storylines, where the X-Men must send Wolverine back in time to prevent a dystopian future ruled by Sentinels. What sets Days of Future Past apart is how seamlessly it juggles its large ensemble cast while delivering a compelling, time-travel narrative. Hugh Jackman, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, and Patrick Stewart all deliver stellar performances, but it's the emotional core of the film, the relationship between Charles Xavier and Magneto, that resonates the most. The film also successfully fixed some of the issues created by X-Men: The Last Stand by retconning certain plot points, bringing new hope to the franchise. The action sequences, particularly the iconic Quicksilver kitchen scene, are a visual treat, and the film's balance of humor, heart, and high stakes is masterful. Days of Future Past manages to honor the legacy of the X-Men while pushing the story forward in an exciting and fresh direction. It's the crown jewel of non-MCU Marvel films, setting a high bar for future superhero films. Quote, as Hugh Jackman said, this was the movie where we really found the balance between spectacle and story. I couldn't be prouder of how it all came together. Final thoughts: the legacy of non-MCU Marvel movies. Marvel's journey to cinematic domination didn't happen overnight. The non-MCU films played a significant role in shaping the landscape of superhero movies as we know them today. From the campy misfires, Howard the Duck and Fantastic Four 2015, to the triumphant successes, Spider-Man 2 and Days of Future Past, each of these films contributed to the evolution of the genre. Some movies on this list may have faltered, but they all paved the way for the MCU, serving as valuable learning experiences in how to adapt complex, beloved characters to the screen. While the MCU has now become the gold standard for superhero films, it's important to remember that the non-MCU movies were instrumental in proving that audiences would flock to theaters to see Marvel heroes in action. As we look back, these films hold a special place in the hearts of fans, even if not all of them are Iron Man-level hits. Whether it's the guilty pleasures like Ghost Rider or the iconic masterpieces like Spider-Man 2, these movies showcase the highs and lows of Marvel's cinematic history before the MCU changed the game forever. Quote, as director Bryan Singer once said, superheroes are more than action and powers, they're stories about humanity and our deepest struggles. And that's exactly what these non-MCU Marvel films tried to capture, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, but always with the ambition to bring Marvel's world to life. While the MCU is now the undisputed leader of superhero storytelling, these non-MCU Marvel films deserve their recognition for shaping the genre. From the gritty, action-packed Blade movies to the emotional weight of X-Men, Days of Future Past, these films played an integral role in expanding the Marvel universe on screen. As Marvel continues to dominate Hollywood, it's worth remembering the legacy of these films and the mark they've left on pop culture. Each of these movies, good or bad, contributed to the superhero genre in their own unique ways, and for that, they'll always have a place in the hearts of Marvel fans.